All right, this is Rudy. It's January the 28th, 2015. I'm reading part 2 of Kent's statement during his before his sentencing. I've just previously read, I think, page 71 through 82. I'm going to start at the top of page 83. Kent is a professional orator. My goal is not to orate like Kent. There's no way that I could ever do that. My goal is to simply read it as fast as I can and to get the words out there. Now, if I make a mistake, it's only because you're listening to me talk and you need to go get the actual document, which I'll put the link in the description bar. But I wanted everybody to hear what Kent's statement was before sentencing. And I got to start at page 83, and we got to go, I think, to 101 or something. So I'm going to read as fast as I can. Okay. The ministry, as I'm going to show you in a minute, is not. And it seems to me that Agent Snyder is acting outside of his authority. So I asked him direct questions about his authority. I sent letters to Agent Snyder, certified mail. In the movie Catch Me If You Can, Tom Hanks tries to catch Leonardo DiCaprio. He's so good at posing as anything, a pilot, a doctor. I believe Scott Snyder has very legitimate authority. I believe the IRS CID has a wonderful place in America. We need them, but he's acting outside his authority when he comes after a church ministry. That's what my letters are about. I've examined. He wanted to examine the financial records. I said, I think this exceeds the venue and dangerous subject matter of your jurisdiction. You may be operating under the color of law. And I sent him this long letter, and we could spend days on that. But this is 11 pages long, saying, would you please tell me which code section gives you the authority to investigate me? I'm a minister. He never answered. This greatly increased my frustration with the whole system. How do I deal with these people? I sent him another letter, December 27th of 2002, and said, you're not following due process. It's my belief, based on the code that I've seen, that law enforcement, the term law enforcement officer, does not include Internal Revenue special agents. Under the law, I'm charged with the knowledge of the authority of government agents. United States versus Jones. Please show me where your authority comes from. Your authority appears to be limited by law to alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. I sent him all the statute regulations. This is only the first part. The letter was 1.5 inches thick and 200 pages of documentation at the end. In June 1980, during hearings before Subcommittee of Oversight of the Internal Revenue Service Finance Committee, Senator Lyle Wicker said, I want to make a statement here just so we all understand and the ground on which we stand. The IRS is not, underlined, not a law enforcement agency. Next paragraph, I sincerely tried to avoid doing anything that might remotely be considered an act to try to impede any IRS agents. I do not wish to impede even you. I cannot locate the authorizing documents authorizing the IRS unit as a CID to enforce Chapter 575. Could you please review the attached materials and point out to me which delegation order gives you authority? He never answered. What am I supposed to do? All I get is silence and the ratings and terrorizing my wife and my ministry. January 14th, I sent him a letter. Dear Mr. Snyder, I just today received your letter dated January 6th asking if I intend to comply with your summons. I hereby assure you that I am very willing to comply, and I intend to do whatever the law requires me to do. I did not wish to make your job difficult. This is my state of mind. It is still my state of mind to this moment. We agreed that if you have authority, I should not hinder you from doing so. The major area of disagreement is whether you're acting within the law and have the lawful authority to conduct an investigation. It is my duty as a child of God to obey his letters as well as the letters of the land that I live in. Because of past abuses of power by people, I have a duty to ensure you are not one of those people seeking to defraud me under the color of law. Skip all the way to page 11 here. I ended the letter by saying, if you find I'm in error about the law regarding my production of documents, please notify me within 20 days or else I can only presume you cannot demonstrate an error. No response. 20 days goes by. I assume I'm fine. I go back out preaching. I'm spending a fortune and spending hundreds of hours researching and trying to find out what's wrong. At the same time trying to maintain our ministry. Back to the affidavit. So these are all the letters that I sent to Agent Snyder asking for help. Please tell me what I'm doing wrong. I sent him tax forms, getting no response from Agent Snyder or anyone else. I considered the matter closed and went off preaching until April the 14th, 2004. I was preparing for these. When he drove me in the driveway with 16 other IRS agents and 20 or so Escambia County officers, it was just a raid on It was just a raid on our ministry. A Gestapo-type raid is the best way I can describe it. He could have just called, "Hey, Ken, I need you to come in." He never does that. It's always got to be a high-profile raid in the media so that we look bad. Our staff filled out many affidavits about how terrorizing they were. They are in the stack, Your Honor. I am not going to read any of those, but please get the heart of our staff as you read some of these affidavits of what they did to us that day. This is America. Nobody should have to go through that. They took all kinds of boxes of materials and all the cash. They wouldn't even let me see what they had taken. As Agent Snyder was about to leave, he said, "Would you sign this paper for all the stuff I've taken?" "No," I said, I want to see it all first. I don't know what you're taking. I still to this day don't know what all they took. The IRS should know from the tax code that every attorney and professional I consulted informs me that the Internal Revenue Code 1401 imposes a tax on self-employment, but the services of a minister are specifically accepted. 1402 says employment, income, trade, or business. The term trade or business shall not include performance or of service of a duly ordained, commissioned, or licensed minister of a church. That's what I am. That's what most of our staff are. 3101 imposes a tax on income, but it specifically accepts in 3121, I'll turn the page here, for the purposes of this chapter, the term employment means whatever service by such term shall not include service performed by a duly ordained, commissioned, or licensed minister of a church. 3402, one of the charges I'm charged with here, talks about employers taking taxes out of their employees' wages, but 3401 defines wages, and 3402A9 specifically accepts the term wages shall not include services performed by a duly ordained, commissioned, or licensed minister. 7202, one of the charges in my indictment, any person required under this title shall deduct and withhold taxes. I don't see where I'm required under this title. I've searched, I've asked him, I sent the letter 3 times. My state of mind is great frustration, Your Honor. I would love to obey the law. I'm trying. CSE has never existed to the benefit of a membership. CSE functions as a bona fide Christian ministry spreading the gospel. I'm a minister. I've taken a vow of poverty. I'm independent. I don't own a car. I don't own a house. I don't own anything. Even if I did receive income, it wouldn't be an exception according to the law. Why is there an... Sorry, let me reread that. I made a mistake. Even if I did receive income, it would be an exception according to the law. Why is there an investigation of me at all unless they are trying to disrupt the creation message? If there is any doubt, come visit. If the IRS is accusing me or my fellow ministers of the church ministry at CSE of some other crime I do not know, I'll be glad to answer questions before the grand jury. Every lawyer I consulted says we are obeying the applicable letters. I just want to be dedicated to preaching the gospel. I realize now I made a fatal mistake by not sending it to Michelle Heldemeyer, only copying it her. As a loophole in the law, she doesn't have to answer. I understand. That was my heart. I wanted answers. Still today would like some answers. One of the major problems that I see here in closing, the IRS does not want to recognize our ministry as a legitimate church ministry. I'm done, Your Honor, with that. I'd like to briefly discuss 3 basic charges and my understanding and my state of mind of what's happening. Counts 1 through 12 are for willful failure to withhold taxes from employees. By the definition of employees that I could see and definition of wages, I wasn't allowed to. IRS Code 3402P says very clearly any withholding has to be a voluntary agreement. If they agree to such withholding, when people came to work at our ministry, I said we cannot withhold taxes for several reasons. We're not authorized to be an agent for the federal government. It's not my job to take money out of your paycheck. I said you should take care of your own taxes. If you have an obligation, pay it. But what the government wants to do is to make the church one of their agents. The pastor, Mooneyhan, says we cannot do that. You cannot deduct wages. Said, what do I do? He said, tell them they are on their own. They're independent contractors. Call them missionaries. It was his decision to call them missionaries. I was never given any notice that I was required to do the things that they charged me with not doing. I was never made aware that these statutes applied to our ministry. I was relying on the professional opinions and the research that I had done and I had sent to them and gotten no response. I was relying on because they had not responded. I told them clearly, if you don't respond, I will assume it's true, and I relied on that. Many ministries, even the large ones, Lakewood Bible Translators and the South African Community Church, have hundreds of people working in their ministry. They all do their staff through independent contracting. They do not take out any taxes. No evidence was presented that we never made a contract to become withholding agents for the government. No evidence that I can see was presented on what specific statute or law we broke or what obligation we have. 3402 prohibits me from withholding without a mutual agreement. But to be a peacemaker, we have since the indictment started using employee leasing service. This is Glenn's decision. I don't know why they tried to make me look bad. Glenn Stoll is the director. They need to talk with him. But then they put me in prison. I thought what I was doing was perfectly lawful. I assure you, Your Honor, I will do everything I can within my power to comply with all legitimate concerns. All or nearly all of the staff members file taxes as independent contractors anyway. As far as I know, it's not my business what they do, but many testified that they did. Okay, that was the end of page 89. That was, I'll start on page 90 in a second. Let me upload this one.